Folks, Black Bull Markets have 10 merch packs to give away to clients who sign up before the end of the year, including one of these trader keys. So to go in the draw, all you need to do is sign up with the link below this video or in the podcast description, and you'll go in the draw to win. It's that simple. And remember, folks, when you sign up to Black Bull Markets through the Trading Nut link below, you're going to get a 100% deposit bonus up to $1,000 on your first deposit. All you need to do is click the link in the description below the video or the podcast.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Brinks Trades again here with you live for another weekly chart breakdown. Again, thank you for the Trading Nut platform for giving me the opportunity to break down charts for you guys. But let's go ahead and dive into this week's chart breakdown. So again, as you know, I start with the dollar index every time I want to break down a pair just to kind of get a better understanding of, you know, if where dollar is moving at, and if we can figure out where the dollar is moving, then we can probably make some predetermining guesses as to where the rest of the index market is going to go. So again, starting with the dollar index futures chart up here. And so again, starting with the monthly time frame, just because, you know, we want to kind of get a better sense of where we're at in the bigger term picture. And so if we look at the monthly time frame, again, I've made reference to this over the past couple of weeks. A few things have happened. We've reached this fair value gap that begins at the 106.02 level and rejected from it. Since then, we've traded into the secondary imbalance here, the secondary fair value gap that begins at 104.49 and runs all the way to 105.118. And so obviously this is the monthly time frame, and this is an active candle for the month of November. So really, you know, up until the end of the month, I'm really just kind of waiting to see where this candle closes. Ideally, I would like for this candle to respect this in here, and if it trades and it respects this fair value gap upon its close, then we'll look to kind of continue this bullish bias that we have going forward. Again, our long-term target, which when we break this down to the weekly time frame, we'll get a better understanding of where we're at. And so as this candle close within this, if we fail to get a close within this gap, or if it doesn't respect the fair value gap, then, you know, I'll start ultimately looking to change my bias to continuing on with this short momentum that we're getting. And so if we break this down to the weekly time frame, again, it's the same thing where we're getting what we wanted to see. Again, long-term bullishness, really taking out these relative equal highs here and then hitting our long-term target, which is sitting at 107.885. And so again, last week, what we wanted to see is really just how price was going to react to this daily fair value gap. And so we've rejected from this gap and traded down into a secondary imbalance that I called out a few weeks ago. Again, seeing that, you know, when I was noting out some additional areas that I thought the dollar could drop down into, I called out this fair value gap here that begins at, looks like 107.97. And so really just looking to see where we're at from here over the next couple weeks. And as we get into the holidays in the month of December, the volatility in the forex or in all markets are really going to slow down. You know, a lot of traders, a lot of big banks and institutions will be going on holiday. So there won't be as many volatile moves. And personally, I will be done trading. This week was actually my last week trading for the year. Had a really a lot of great setups. Actually capitalized on about 8,000 in profits across accounts. So that was really cool. But yeah, so going into the next week, what I'll be watching for over the next few weeks is price to trade, see how it reacts to this fair value gap. If we tend to get a break of structure and we are looking like we're going to be bullish again, so if we reject from this level, then I'm going to be looking to continue on with this bearish bias. Ultimately, I'm targeting and I'm looking at these relative equal highs here sitting over this long-term target. And this might be a really good opportunity for us to take things long. So that's really just what I'm watching. I'm kind of sitting back and observing and waiting. As of now, we clearly have broken structure and we're trading out back down um, in a downtrend. So just really watching into next week how prices are going to react. Again, I'm long-term bullish still just because of the base and the higher time frames, but that will really kind of be determined by the end of this week going into the end of the month. Um, Again, when I originally called out that I wanted to see prices come lower in the short term, it's, coming lower to buy up to take higher again. And so the couple things I had noted out was this low here on the weekly time frame, these relative equal lows at 102.87, this imbalance, this volume imbalance, liquidity void here at 104.14. So those are all be levels that I'm watching, and that's kind of what we've are just shy of trading into here. So I really want to see how price reacts going into next week. If we tend to get again a break of structure above this level, and we start trading higher, especially if we go down to the 4-hour time frame, if we take out these highs and start trading higher, then I'm going to be looking to carry on with my bullish bias. If we break any lower than this, then I'm going to switch bias to a more of a downtrending bias. Very hesitant to switch because I think still long term we have a lot of opportunity to come back up here. And so really, once we get a clear understanding of where the monthly candle closes, I think that'll kind of be like the key indicator for us. If we come back up and respect this fair value gap on the monthly time frame, then that'll kind of set us up to continue to go long. If we fail to close, if we close underneath this, then I'll be looking to retest this zone and look for opportunities to continue going short. So it's kind of a waiting game. Again, like I said, long-term bullish, kind of continuing on with the bias, but we'll see what happens. So as of right now, with that bias in mind, let's go ahead and check out Nasdaq and let's look at the weekly time frame. So there's a couple things that I called out in Nasdaq over the past week, and I wanted to see a few levels get hit, and I made mention this last week that we could be shifting to an overall bearish bias in Nasdaq, which would line up with a continued decrease in Nasdaq or with the dollar index that we might be seeing. And so there's a couple levels that I called out, and so I want to start and take a look and just kind of replay what we wanted to see coming into last week, right? And so last week, if we get rid of some of these zones here, again, last week we wanted to see price really retest this level here at let's call it 15,000. 621 or 622 because there's buy side liquidity sitting over here. And so when we saw this originally pull back from this fair value gap that was at 14,223, again, we talked about this being kind of like our quarterly objective over the past quarter. We knew that the market was kind of reaching down into the zone. And so this is something that I had outlined since the beginning of this downtrending run. And so once we broke structure here, this really was the start of a new quarterly objective for us where we were trading to get a load of or take out the buy side liquidity that was sitting at these trend lines. And so again, when we talk about the idea of trend lines, I'll just say this. I talk to this about my mentorship group all the time. I don't necessarily trade trend lines in the way that most people do. Again, not buying and selling the bounces off of these, but just realizing that there's going to be buy side liquidity sitting over these highs, right? And so that's really what we kind of thought the market was going to be targeting over this past week or moving forward. And so the projection for last week, if I switch back to my other Nasdaq chart, the projection for last week was really for price to come into this zone and really take out the buy side liquidity over this high and then potentially even this high. And so what I made a note to my team was that these are relative equal highs going into Friday. But if we clean this up a little bit and zoom in, you can see, at this, we really wanted to see price come to this 15,637 level and really take out the liquidity. And that's exactly what we got. We even got an extended run for the buy side liquidity sitting up at this high. And this really just gave us a really clean setup. And so once this was hit, I actually had the opportunity to take some counter trend trades, basically trading off of this area. I made the call out in the chat that these were going to be very short opportunities. again, because one of the things that I do not want to do in the trend is call the top or bottom on the trend. And so if we keep getting higher highs and we're reaching for buy side liquidity, we have to kind of move with the assumption that we're going to keep running for new highs until the market gives us a clear definition that it's not going to attack those highs anymore, right? And so this is exactly what we got. So what I wanted to see again was met by taking out the buy side liquidity over this high at 15,628, and then additionally the move at 15,000. I'm sorry, the move at 15,629 and the play at 15,936. So these two levels were taken out and we traded back down. We've actually formed a secondary imbalance here. And so what I wanted to see moving forward was price to retrade into this fair value gap and then continue to attack these highs. If we go down to the 4-hour time frame, we got a huge consolidation zone, and this is that daily fair value gap. I'm just going to make a note of this so everybody can see this. So this daily fair value gap here was what I wanted to see price trade into. It did. If we go back up, we can see that once we set the gap, we traded back into it, I think on Thursday. And what I additionally wanted to see was the secondary imbalance inside here. I'm just going to adjust this so people can see. There's a secondary fair value gap that I wanted to see price trade into. And so going into next week, one of the things that I'll be looking for is for price to trade into this zone. There's some relative equal lows over a fair value gap. It's a really good indication that price might retest this level. So I'm going to be looking for price to continue to go short in here and then keep going high and take out, our ultimate target. And so if we look at this 4-hour time frame, again, anytime I see relative equal highs, oops, let me erase some of this so we can see this a little better. Anytime I see relative equal highs sitting over fair value gap, it just kind of lets me know the market is building liquidity in this zone. So I would not be surprised if we came in this zone, take price out. And this fair value gap begins at 15,733 and runs all the way to 15,552 on the 4-hour chart. And so that's what I'll be looking for. And so we might not touch all the way down here, but I'll be looking for some sort of retracement back into either a few key levels that I'll call out. So the first one obviously would be that fair value gap. The second level I'll also be looking at is the consequent encroachment of these wicks, right? And so I'll be looking at this level right here at looks like 15,803 to see how the market reacts at that level. So that level, the fair value gap level, and then also the consequent encroachment of this long wick, which we really had a hard time breaking. And so I was able to take a couple of setups in this range last week, and everything is documented in my Telegram chat. If you click the link, it's Telegram. The Telegram tick ups, and I have a link I think in the description or in one of the comments. I took a couple trades positions last week trading this wick, the daily or 4-hour wick, into this just high of this fair value gap. We ended up not breaking through consequent encroachment of this wick or this wick, so that kind of gave me an opportunity to take this wick back up yesterday for an additional trade. So I had 2 or 3 really good trade setups to the tune of like $8,000 or something like that in the chat. So everything's documented. Again, if you guys want more insight throughout the week, please check out that chat. It's not a paid chat, it's a free chat, just where I throw my analysis in there. So so again, I'll be looking for price to again take out the sell side under these wicks and then maybe potentially even trade into this fair value gap. So these are the levels that I'll be looking at to potentially even start to look to go long, and that'll really depend on the week. Next week we think about, obviously it'll be a shortened week because of Thanksgiving, the markets will be closed, so maybe we might not see as much volatility in the back half of the week. We could see a potential Sunday, Monday, Tuesday run down, right? So that's what I'll be looking for on Nasdaq. We might not trade into that just because this daily fair value gap has already been tested and rejected from. So again, I'll be looking for some opportunity to buy under the low of the week or under the open of the week and take things a little bit higher. Again, a bigger call out that I'm looking for Nasdaq is this ultimate fair value gap for our take profits, right? And so we took out buy side liquidity sitting over this high right here that I previously mentioned was one of the targets for this week or last week. And so what I'll be looking for again is just to ultimately trade up here for a target. Another call out that I will be looking for again is the consequent encroachment of this wick. And so just like on dollar index a few weeks ago, if we had a hard time breaking through that consequent encroachment level, I'll also be looking at this level here at 15,931 to see if we break past this level. If we break past this level, then most likely we're going to keep trading up. If we get to this level or just shy of it, around this level, and we have a hard time breaking through, could signal a long time reversal. And this was just a big liquidity grab, right? And so that's what I'll be looking for on Nasdaq. Again, I'm looking, still looking for higher prices. So until the market gives us a reason not to. Go to the comment section really quick and see if we have anything. Okay, a couple people saying for a second. And let me go ahead and drop this in the chat too, just so you guys have access to that Telegram group. Again, you can follow me at Brinks Trades on all social media. I'll just drop that in the chat. Please definitely check it out. I guarantee it's worth a lot of at least to check out. There's a lot of analysis, a lot of insights that I throw in there. So okay, so anyway, so bullish bias on Nasdaq. If we go to US500, so again, a couple things I wanted to see from US500. So actually, let's start with the E-mini because that's a little bit easier. So what I wanted to see was really there was a couple targets that were outlined. If we go over with weekly bias, again, so we had this fair value gap that we had previously traded into, but really, there was a couple things here as well that I also wanted to see. These relative equal highs, I wanted to see these traded up and kind of rated the liquidity that was going to sit over them. So that was kind of my target for the week. If we go back to the beginning of the week, we wanted to see, again, those highs taken. I think this was 2 weeks ago, actually. Wanted to see these highs taken. And so we had a couple questions as far as like what we could be reaching for and what were some opportunities. And so coming into last Friday, this is where we sat. So I wanted to see price trade into this imbalance. And once we got here, I really wanted to be flat in the market, right? And because I wanted to see what was going to happen if we were going to hit this gap and potentially break out to the downside or keep going. I didn't really have a great question for that, or a great answer for that. I'm sorry. So I wanted to see what would happen once we traded in here. And so this is what we got to start the week off. Let me go ahead and so what we ended up actually getting is just a retracement into this gap here. And so we totally disregarded this gap, which is again our target. But I wanted to also see if this was going to give us short opportunities once we got into this range. So we were able to capitalize on the bullish movement here, and then so price obviously just totally disregarded this gap. And so going into next week, again, I'll be holding a bullish bias, and so I'll be looking for at a couple levels, just looking to continue taking out buy side liquidity. It's very clear that we're in a bullish momentum, bullish model right now. So what I want to see here is price pull back to potentially as low as this fair value gap here, right? But ultimately, I'll be looking to take out buy side liquidity. There's a couple of notes here that I think are going to be very, very key, right? So your relative equal highs that are sitting right there. Oops, let's make that a little bigger. Your relative equal highs that are sitting right there, and obviously the buy side liquidity is sitting over this high. So that's what I'll be looking for getting hit into next week. As far as areas that we can pull back to, again, just like on Nasdaq, there's a fair value gap that's sitting right here. Kind of overlaps with this imbalance here. Let's make this green so we know that this is busy. Okay, cool. All right, so we wanted to see price, potentially touch into this. We did. So we could dig deeper in this. We could also retest this. So if we go down to like the 4-hour time frame, just really quickly, what I would love to see here is just kind of grabbing liquidity under these lows. Oops, under these lows. Potentially even as low as this fair value gap, and then just taking out these highs. These relative equal highs here would be my first target at 4,541, and then ultimately going up to the next buy side liquidity level at 4,561. So that's really what I'll be watching. Again, we could trade as low as this 4-hour fair value gap. So I'm going to make the note here, but then I'm also going to pay attention to the buy side liquidity sitting at this low. So there's a few levels that I'm looking at, and obviously we don't know which level the market's going to trade to, but we can work within our overall bias, which is bullishness. And so really just looking for opportunities to buy at these levels if the market gives us the right signals. So 4,501 is our sell side liquidity level. Our fair value gap begins at 4,096. So just under these levels again, just like Nasdaq, right? Getting relative equal highs right above a fair value gap is always a good sign. And so want to see price come back down and take these levels out, and then attack the liquidity that's sitting at this level here at 4,541, and then making our way to 4,565. So I'm just going to make a note here and say buy side liquidity. Boom. And then take out these highs, right? So that's all I got for US 500. That's the E-mini. Technically, E-mini and the S&P is the same thing as US 500, just slightly different. Again, one is for US markets, one is for international markets. And so if you look at the same thing, we got pretty much the same thing on Nasdaq, or I'm sorry, on the US 500. So we actually were trading into this fair value gap 2 weeks ago, or had broken past this fair value gap 2 weeks ago. Right here. So very similar. Again, we're probably aiming for the buy side liquidity that's sitting at this level or this level. And so that'll be technically our overall bias. But coming into the week, again, same thing as the S&P. We were trading over these fair value gaps. Over these relative equal highs. And so I wanted to see if we were going to respect this fair value gap, take out liquidity here and break out and really kind of respect the downtrend. But since we're trading over these highs now, and we're definitely trading outside this fair value gap, I want to see price give us a reason to come back down, retest this area, and then start aiming at the buy side liquidity at these levels here. So that'll be my target for next week. The US 500 levels are going to be 4,543, and then 4,596. And then if we break it down just a little bit more, one step further, again, same thing. I just want to see price come back down and retest these key levels, and then give us a reason to continue to go on upward, right? And so very much in a bullish mindset. So with that in mind, we could be seeing deeper prices on Nasdaq or on the dollar index. If we go back there really quickly, we could continue to see dollar drop. But everything ends with dollar. And so I use this. I don't trade the dollar personally, but I kind of use this as my personal barometer to see like where we might go for the week. Okay, last but not least, US30. Let me look at the comment section really quick. Okay, still nobody. That's all good. If you guys have comments, go ahead and drop them in the chat. We can touch on them and break them down. Again, so US30, same thing. What I'll be watching for this upcoming week is I got to ask myself where, based on the areas that we just hit, like where could we potentially be going for? Again, we had retested coming into the weekly time frame. We had retested this fair value gap here, and I wanted to see. So we go back 1 week. I wanted to see if we were going to respect this level again and continue to fall over with this bearish mindset or this bearish bias, or are we going to just keep breaking through this and not respect this at all? We'd already retested it once, so there's always the possibility that it could, it won't hold at this point. And so I outlined a couple of scenarios, but really, the thing is that we don't ever want to pick the top or bottom in the trend, and so we want to wait for the market to give us a reason to drop. And so I outlined a couple of things coming into Friday. This was Monday. Go back one more. So coming into the week on the daily time frame, we had just grabbed. Oops. Yeah. So coming into Friday, we had just grabbed the buy side liquidity sitting over this high and retested this fair value gap again. So I wanted to see if we were going to get some type of push to the upside. And so if we go down to the 4-hour time frame, again, we had just taken out buy side liquidity at this level. And so wanted to see if we were going to continue to keep going higher. Took out the highs here and traded back up into this. So really just was the question mark. Had outlined a fair value gap on the 4-hour time frame that I wanted to see price trade into. And so that was kind of our target. Because again, I don't pick the tops or bottoms of the trend. Even if we're on a higher time frame area of interest where we think price might reverse, the market's got to give us the sign that it needs to, that's going to reverse before it does, right? And I outlined some of that stuff with my like mentorship, what we look for. And so so until that gives us the reason, you know, I'm still for a bullish bias. And so I wanted to see price kind of trade back into this range and continue to go higher. And if we kind of use market replay, I think that's exactly what we got. Yeah. So we ended up trading just back in this range, not as deep as I think the call out was. But if we fast forward this, we hit our target and then we went even a little bit higher for the week. And so really this did a couple things for us. The first one was going to obviously hit our target that we had outlined for the week, but then also continue to give us this bullish bias that really kind of sets it up that for the markets to go higher. And so not only did we take out this fair value gap here, which is our 4-hour fair value gap, we also traded, if I go back down to the 4-hour, above two. So again, I'm continuing on with the bullish bias. I'm not breaking structure until the market gives us a reason to. So what I'd like to see here is us trade back down into this gap. Get rid of this. Again, remembering that this next week is going to be a short week because of the holiday, but I want to see price trade back into this range, which it already is traded back into this fair value gap. So I'm calling out, or I want to see a retest. I want to see a deeper retest really to this 4-hour imbalance, just like on Nasdaq. I think we're setting ourselves up really well to get a liquidity grab, taking out these sell side lows and potentially even to this fair value gap. But I really want to see price retest this level at 3,493. I think it's what the level is. 34,900 or 34,815. Sorry, I can't see. My screen is too small. So I want to see price come back and retest this low, give us a reason to grab sell side, and then continue to go higher, right? And so we might see a deeper grab into this. And I'll make a note of that as well. Like I'll also put a secondary imbalance there. So I want to see price at least take out the sell side underneath these lows. So I'll have that marked out. And so if we see price go into that, then it could stab into this fair value gap a little bit deeper. So I'll be prepared for that. But this is really the level that I'm looking at, especially since on the daily time frame we've already gravitated into that daily fair value gap. So this will be where I'll be looking, potentially stab into here, but this will be the key level. Just want to go down to the hour. Yeah, I mean, we could see a grab into that. It's just these relative equal lows are still pretty clean. So again, this is where I'll be looking at 34,821 if I was to trade. Again, I mentioned this before. I only trade Nasdaq. But if I was trading the Dow Jones, I would want to see price come back down to this level and give us a reason to go higher once it does. At the minimum, somewhere between 34,911 and this fair value gap that begins at 34,736. So I'd want to be a buyer somewhere in there. So we'll see what happens. Again, we did just grab liquidity here, so there's the potential chance that we could break structure and go a little lower. So I'll be watching for all those things. We get an extended run, especially if we start trading underneath this fair value gap, then the move could be a reversal or a deeper retracement. So that's all the things I'll be watching for. The other level on on Dow Jones that I'll be watching is the consequent encroachment of this wick. Looks like we already did trade down into it and rejected from it. So that is the third level that I'll be watching. And the market will probably only trade to one of these levels, right? It's not like I'm just calling out 3 levels because I'm going to try and buy at all of them. It's most likely with the way that the index markets move, it's only going to trade to one of these levels. So I'm just kind of outlining the 3 that I think will be probably the best scenario. And so we traded down to this consequent encroachment. So we might not even get as low as the sell side. So I want to see, again, this if we respect this consequent encroachment level again for another day, then we most likely will be trading break higher than this. So 30, and that level is at 34,879. So those 3 levels. See, and if these videos are a help to you guys, feel free to like the videos, like them, and once they post, once the live is over, come back to the video, use it as analysis, leave some comments, drop some comments, and let me know how these outlooks are working for you. So far, we've been pretty accurate though in the index market. So I hope everybody's enjoying this. So yeah, so that's what I want to see for Nasdaq or for Dow Jones. Again, 3 levels I'm looking at: 34,876. The sell side at 34,816, and then this fair value gap that begins at 34,766. So yeah, so that's all I got for the 3 outlooks. Again, dollar, we're still kind of waiting on a long-term bias or a short-term bias, but again, long-term bias, I want to be long on dollar, which might line up with an eventual reversal in the index markets. But as of right now, we're still seeking lower prices on dollar. So we're going to continue with that bias until we kind of determine where we're at for the month. Indices, which is what everybody really wants to see. I'm bullish. I'm bullish, man, on all 3. So looking for opportunities to buy under the low of the week and really take that to the high of the week or the previous outline targets. I guess for Nasdaq, I guess I didn't make a target. I'm sorry, for Dow Jones. For Dow Jones, I want to see there's a small imbalance right here that I want to see price trade to. So that'll be my target for this week if we get this high. I'll also be looking at these highs as well. So that'll be kind of like my key target for this week at 35,163 if we take out these highs. So the first target will be these highs, and the second target will be there. So just really seeing what will happen. Again, knowing that we are going to be into a shortened week because of the holiday, Thanksgiving holidays. The markets will be closed Thursday, and probably most of Friday they'll be slow too. So I wouldn't expect too much. And personally, for me, I will continue to do outlooks and just make projections on where I think price is going to go. But I'm personally done trading for the week, so I'm not really, or for the year actually. So I won't be trading much of the month of December just due to low volatility, and this week and next week will just be very slow because of the holidays and just December kicking in. So there might be some action that last week of or next week, but I won't be participating in it. I had a really really good week this past week, so I will be staying out. So yeah, so if you guys have any questions at all, let's see. I don't think we have any questions. Again, we're gonna go ahead and show this. Appreciate you guys for coming to the link and checking it out. If you guys have any questions at all, again, feel free to check out my my Telegram chat at Tickups. That's the one that I personally do a lot of my outlooks and analysis once the week happens, because again, we can always change our bias going into the week, right? Just based on market action. So this is just kind of the outlooks that I have based on where the market's at right now. And so follow me there, and then follow me on Brinks Trades on any social media platform: Instagram, Threads, Twitter, YouTube. We'll be getting up more and coming out with some more content as well as there. So really just want to provide as much content for you guys as possible. And thanks again to the Trading Up platform for letting me come on and doing some outlooks and analysis there. So appreciate it, guys. If you guys have any questions at all, feel free again to hit me in the chats or message me or leave some comments and like this video, man. We want to get these numbers up so we can spread this to more traders. So appreciate it, and have a good week. Have a good Thanksgiving, and see you then.